So thank you very much for joining us, Jan. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about creative CVs. What does that mean? Please tell us more.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, creative CVs. It's funny because I never thought this was going to get this attraction because I've written it on a job advertisement in frustration once. Because I figured I just want it on there. I don't want people disencouraged by the necessity to put on their master's degree, bachelor, PhD, 17 years of working experience, but please be under 25. I thought that was always very weird. Maybe quickly, that was already the problem statement, why that came about. Maybe quickly about myself. So my journey is very weird. It's very atypical. I work in a pharma company. I always wanted to be a doctor, but having been thrown out of 4 schools, it didn't work out with med school. So I figured, what can I do to help patients without a professional barrier of entry? And so I applied for internships. I just said, hey, I want to work here. And I used to be an entrepreneur. I did bars and restaurants and I had them. And then I never felt really fulfilled with that because after you figure a challenge out, you lack purpose, right? And if you lack purpose, you're not going to stay motivated. So yeah, long story short, I got into pharma by applying to 8 of them, just saying, hi, I want to help people. I want to help patients. I really believe that I can do this here without a degree. And I started as an internship. That worked out. They hired me. And 7.5 years later, I'm here. I'm in the innovation lab. I get to work with patients, doctors, insurance providers, caregivers, family members every day, create new services, improve the patient journey, and hopefully do my duty to make this world a little bit of a better place. And so let's jump right into it. Why creative CVs? So in my company that I work, we are always looking for new, innovative approaches, new ways of thinking, trying to stay up to speed, trying to find out what's the next trend, trying to do things differently in the past. And I'm sure I see in the faces that somehow resonates with probably what everybody else is going through in a world that spins so incredibly fast that you don't even know really where it's going, and you have to figure it out on your feet, and you need people that think on their feet and have many different interests and are up to speed with hobbies and trends and technology and science. And the weird thing is we look for these people, right? But we don't find them in a traditional way. We still have the same way of looking for people, at least in our company, right? We write a job ad. What do we need? And then we write down 17 bullet points, all of them very high level, very disconnected. Thank you for laughing, Christina. That's really good. And then we put on there that, you need to be different. You need to be creative. You need to have all the skills that millennials have, or influencers have, or entrepreneurs have, right? And then we want to hire you, but please make sure you have an MBA, 17 years of work experience, so we can hire you. And I didn't agree with that, right? Because I said, I don't need someone, and without saying that this is the wrong way, it is not. Everybody has their own way of doing things. But if you want someone truly different, you need to hire differently. And I got so frustrated because I said, please take out the MBA, please take out the bachelor's. I don't care. I don't need it in there. It scares people off. I don't want that. So as a very easy thing, what I did, it was basically the smallest thing we could agree on was, please put in there creative CVs welcome, please. And so we put that in there, and and people applied, and then basically that's just the entrance, right? Because what is a creative CV? I guess that's the smallest thing I could agree on, and with HR in that matter. And then basically that hopefully enables people to come up with something that is out of the ordinary, because that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for different. And full disclaimer, it doesn't mean that traditional CVs and traditional skills are not needed. Quite the contrary, actually. They are needed, but we need people that promote different way of thinking, pull them out of the box, bring their experience and translate it into the future, right? And that's only in conversation and if you come from a different background and inspire people and cross-pollinate in the matter, right? So, but that's only the first step, right? Because then applications come in and then the system filters people out that doesn't have a certain degree. I mean, for us, we usually get about 250 applications per position, right? So that's already tough. And then we only put it on LinkedIn, where the traditional ways of communication is. So I guess, yeah, we try to put it where people's attention is. And that's also something that you have to counteract with SOPs, I guess, with our company. But what we are looking for, or at least what I'm looking for in the matter, is basically 4 things. And that's the whole point of having creative CV, because what I look for, and I read every single CV, that's very important to me, because there's currently no mechanism how we can figure out what a creative CV is, right? There's no systematic approach to this. Maybe in the future there will be, for now there isn't. So I sit down, I read 250 CVs, and what I'm looking for is 4 things. I look for any hunch and any hint of exceptional ability in whatever way or capacity they have, right? Exceptional ability. And that can be everything. It can be filmmaking. It can be, hey, I grew my home cookie baking business to 20,000 revenue a month by just doing TikTok ads. I don't know. I have no clue. But I need to know that you have exceptional ability in something, and exceptional drive in something. The second one is, and this one is you can get a grasp of it in how they write things and how they actually portray themselves. It's there needs to be a strong cultural and value fit, and that is the essence of everything, I believe, in hiring. Usually, and I'm curious, and thank you for having the cameras on, because it gives you some feedback, and maybe this resonates with you. Usually, whatever position, and be honest, whatever position you hire, usually within the first 30 seconds, you realize if someone is intelligent enough to do it. First 30 seconds, you realize it. This human being is perfectly adequately equipped to do this job, and then everything else is on top of that, right? So yeah, the strong cultural fit is super important. If that is not aligned, and I work in healthcare, I get to do this. It's like a cancer cell, right? Because in cancer, there's only one cell that if not managed enough, if not pulling at the right strings, will corrupt the whole body. So I really truly believe in that. Cultural fit is one of the most, if not the most important thing. The third one is mindset, right? And that's luckily something we have figured out, and I'm sure many of you have figured this out as well by asking behavioral questions, right? Where do you resort to when you get under pressure? How do you tackle certain situations? Do you act as a visionary, architect, catalyst, or coach? And how would you portray that, right? So that luckily collectively we have figured out. And the last one, it's passing the beer test. If we talk to you and we don't, the team doesn't feel like we want to grab a beer with you after, and you're fun to be around, then it's probably going to be tough, right? It's going to be a tough fit because that's, by the way, this is me. I don't believe in segregating work and private life too much, because we're at a purpose level of how we want to work. It shouldn't feel like work. It should coincide with what you want to do on planet Earth, right? Coming back to what I said, I always wanted to be a doctor. I want to help people, help patients. And I couldn't do that in med school. So I tried to find a company that brings both of that together. For me, no day feels like work, except for maybe when I have to read 250 CVs. But that's a different story. So yeah, needs to pass the beer test. And I want to give you about 5 small points that we try to do, or I try to do with the team on how to actually get this on the ground very specifically. And then I hope we can go into hardcore Q&A. You ask me all the questions, I try to give all the answers, and we take it from there. So the first one is when it comes to culture and how someone is as a human being. And be very mindful, none of these are kill criteria. It's just to give you a hunch, but at the end of the day, you need to have a good sense to let your gut feeling decide with the team together, right? One of them, at any given round that you have with them, take them out to a cafe. And you've probably heard this in many articles before, but it really does work. Take them out to a cafe, see how they treat the waiter, see how they treat the people, see how they act, see how they say please or thank you when they be giving their coffee, right? I mean, yes, of course, sometimes they're nervous and then you cut them some slack and that's okay. But in general, right, you need them to be a good and decent human being, because that really displays cultural fit, in my opinion. The second one is very tactical as well. You advertise where you encounter them, right? Which basically means whatever profile you're looking for, make sure you go where their attention is. Someone like me would never look on a job advertisement webpage for a specific title. I wouldn't know, right? So make sure you go wherever the attention of your target audience is. If you feel like that is, for example, at a hackathon, right? If you want someone like that, do that. I once even texted someone where I was so impressed. We're going off tangent. There was an article I've read on Reddit, and someone posted an incredible comment under it, and I texted it someone, and I was like, "You should work here." It didn't work out in the end, but still, right? That's needed. And then there's the hackathon topic. It's something I want to try, and it proves to be a little bit more resource intense. We want to host a hackathon under a third-party label and just say, insert healthcare challenge here, help us solve it. People apply, they work together with us for a day, and then you have a really good feeling of where they're coming from, how they argue, values, collaboration, and so on. And the last one, before we go into Q&A, and I hope it was easy to follow, and the last one is probably the most important one, and I think it's something that for all of us is the most difficult one, even for me. You got to have the courage to pull the trigger. And what I mean with that is you got to have the courage to do the thing that is not conventional. You got to have the courage to hire that kid that got kicked out of 4 schools and had a bar, had a restaurant, but wants to be a doctor and didn't make it, but wants to help patients. You got to have the courage to do that. And I want to leave you with just telling you the person that did that for me. It was the medical director of the company that I work at. She had a professor's degree. She couldn't have been more traditional in the way that she did it, but she realized that someone that wants to do it, someone that has the passion, will go above and beyond and is absolutely worth a shot. And I'm, to this day, so grateful. It's actually her birthday tomorrow. And I'm not in contact with her anymore on a professional level, but every year I text her for her birthday. I make sure I grab coffee with her. I'll never forget her. And I highly encourage all of you to be that person. Pull the trigger and do it. If you feel like someone deserves a shot, do it.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks a lot. Let's do the questions, right? And first question, I think Jakob also already wrote in here, social media channels.
Yeah,
Correct. It was just an idea came up while you were speaking, and thanks for sharing your great story, Jan. I completely agree with you. The old cliche with hiring personality, not skills, is definitely also one of my key points when I recruit. It works actually. But I was just wondering, what about the new generations that are about to enter the job market? If we follow your thesis, we need to hire or recruit them on their channels, right? They're not looking in our direction. They're not looking at LinkedIn or in Denmark Job Index. They are on TikTok. And TikTok is becoming highly commercial now, right? And that's where I'm going to find some of my next colleagues in 5 or 10 years. That's where we'll recruit those persons, or similar if TikTok is not around, something else is. But definitely that's where it begins. And that's actually a little bit frightening thought for me, because I don't know TikTok. So I'm actually out of the game. And that's where I need to pull the trigger and to become wiser in those channels, I guess. So it was more common than a question, Jens.
All right. Perhaps in terms of a question, could you just take a step back and say, what is a creative CV? What have you encountered?
So me?
Or Jan, perhaps?
Yeah, Jan.
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, so once all we did, we were looking for someone that could. By the way, real quick, I really agree, and I love that you said that, and I love the vulnerability that you showed. That's super important. But remember this: you didn't know how to ride a car, and then you learned doing it. And I think that's the same thing with TikTok. Just get rid of that job index. Just get rid of it. Just immerse yourself in the new platforms and go where the attention of the people is. That's it. TikTok is very easy, and by the way, very fun. But yeah, that's beside the point. To me, a creative CV. Once what we did, we were looking for someone that could help us digest content, right? Almost like I called it predator, but you can't write that as a job ad, and it's predator because it's producer, editor, writer, right? So predator, and that person, what they did, they took a video from YouTube by themselves that we had as a company, like a speech, very boring speech, and what they did is they produced about 12 pieces of content out of that, and they sent it to us.
How about that?
Yeah, how about that?
On that note, let's jump to Anke in Montabaur, middle of Germany.
Yeah, hi, Jan. Jan, I think what you pointed out was absolutely right. We as employers have to get out of the comfort zone. And meaning also, I have frequent battles when people apply to me via multiple channels, just reaching out and then going back to my HR team, and they said, well, they have to follow the formal process. And I think that's, on the one hand side, typically German, but I think we have to let go somehow when we look at those generations to come from those formal processes, because they are not formal in that way we are looking backwards. They are more agile, they are more jumping onto something if an opportunity comes across. And I think this is the attitude that employers, especially when we are employing to a large extent, have to accomplish and let go of those old traditions, so to say, and embrace what's coming up now. Meaning, like as our colleague from John Deere has put it out, embracing new channels, but also new ways of handing in a CV. It might not be like a CV as we know it, with like all the bullets that you covered, because those are not the personalities by the end we're looking for.
All right.
How about this one, right? We try to do human-centered design everywhere. We try to be more customer-centric, and then we have the same old process that was there 20 years ago. So how about that? How about we put some human-centered design in that one?
Very nice. Let's jump to Mads.
Yeah, really a fairly short comment. If you ask easy and obvious questions, you get easy and obvious answers. So sometimes you need to just get out there and ask those funky questions to get those answers that actually can take you somewhere unexpected and potentially better.
Thank you, Mats. I absolutely agree. 2 years ago, I asked it was one of the first times that I got pulled into a job interview, someone in our team. And then I was like, hey, Jan, got any questions like on the case study? And I was like, nope. And then I was like, got any, but I have other questions if we can move on. And it was like, sure. And so what I asked back then, I'm not saying this is a great question, but what I asked is like, what would you do with your life if you had 100 million in the bank? And that person just looked at me like, what? And then I repeated the question, and it was very cool because what that tells you, let's say there's no wrong answers. And that answer for me was only bonus points, right? So it wasn't deductions if the answer was bad because, you're on the spot and not everybody, can be there on the spot and deliver. But in that, but the only thing that I didn't want there, I guess, that didn't earn you bonus points is when you say, oh, I'd probably go to an NGO, because that's not true. Maybe it is, but then, you realize that with more detail. But it's absolutely fine because that person I remember, and she still works here and she's an absolute great fit. Absolutely crushing it, by the way, in every shape or form, on a human level, on a purpose level, on a productivity, absolutely crushing it. And that person said, yeah, you know what, I would take a year off to find myself and then see what I really need in life and see what my purpose is and then go from there. And that is so deeply honest. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, but you risk to get the answer. Well, not talking to you at least.
Yeah. Sure.
All right, let's jump to Hamburg. Mark from the home studio.
Yeah, thanks, Janus. Jan, thank you so much for your talk. That was super, super cool and right in time for me because I'm currently hiring a couple of people, and it's really tough these days, especially because I need some very specific knowledge. So while I totally agree that knowledge can be taught as well, I do need some specific knowledge up front. One question with regards to that, what is your experience when you put this creative CVs welcome under the application form or in the net or wherever you put the job ad? Do you get more CVs by doing that or less?
I think it's unchanged. I think most of the people most of them just ignore it. And sometimes you can tell they beautified it. So just make it look nicer on a UX perspective. But then and that's the critical part, and that's why it's so seemingly inefficient, because you got to pick through it and you got to find those diamonds. Because I would say on 100, and this is probably for people very disencouraging, on 100 you maybe get one.
So what we need to do is put it on all our job ads all over the world so people know what it means, and then they would apply. It's as easy as that. And you have to talk at more conferences and things about this. It's a really good thing.
Or you say unconventional, right? I mean, creative can be many things. I guess you just, the only thing that my intent was, and I didn't think that Janus would invite me to talk about it because it was such a small thing. It was like a split-second decision. My only intent was to not shy away people like me that get completely disencouraged when it says 17 years of experience, MBA, PhD, or a medical doctor degree or whatever, right? Because it's not needed for everything. Being very mindful that specific skills and knowledge is important, right?
Cool. Thanks, Jan.
Very good. We're coming up at the end. Any additional comments, reflection, perhaps your minds are thinking of all the resistance you might encounter internally if you come back and suggest this idea. Mads, do you want to?
Yeah, just a final comment. Sometimes when you do this, you need to be prepared also to not hire for the position that you actually set out for, because if the talent shows that you are capable of doing something else, just go with the flow and take in this person and then create the job for that person. That's what it really takes to embrace it.
I could not agree more. I didn't apply for a job ad. I printed out 7 application letters with my story and why I want to do it, and I put it in mailboxes. There was no job for me, right? They created it.
All right, 3 minutes left, 3 more. Let's do Silas. I think colleagues with Mass. Brave enough now here at the last second to also say something.
Yeah, my thought was on culture fit versus getting new perspective, because at least previously we hired someone where the person came with a lot of different perspective, a lot of different skills in the background, but it might not be the person I would ping pong over beer with. But we were polite, both of us. We could surely talk and have a good time to some degree. But so getting new perspective, doesn't it require to have some sort of like challenging your culture also, or did I get it wrong?
This is something I failed to verbalize in the right way last few weeks as well, and I try. I believe in the dictatorship of culture, and I know how that sounds, but I'm just gonna say it, even though I'm recorded. Thank you, Jonas. You can't have assholes. You just can't. You can't. It's not a no-go, right? And while that is the bottom line and foundation of everything, you really do need diversity and inclusion that goes beyond gender, race, orientation, but also background, right? So I think personally, my opinion, these two things are very separate. Well, if you're a family and you want that culture in your company, there's certain rules you need to play by, right?
All right, and then last but not least, I think, how do you think about inclusive language in the context of creative CVs?
Inclusive language. I haven't thought about it, but now that you tell me, I mean, I would definitely match it to the channel you put it on, right? I think on a job index, it will probably be very traditional and just be unconventional CVs, or don't be disencouraged if you do not have the, things here. Sometimes it's as easy as writing down or equivalent work experience. That's something in the right direction, I presume. But then again, if honestly, I would love to run a TikTok ad that says, if you want to make shit happen and improve healthcare and save the planet, please apply, right? That would be great. I think you just need to do it with the channel, and you need to tailor it to the channel. So yes, definitely.
All right, let's see if we can perhaps move more on that. I can follow up with Anke and you on in the email conversation afterwards. But for now, thank you very much, Jan. We're out of time, but thank you for getting us thinking about creative CVs and for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And I want to say one thing as a disclaimer. This doesn't mean that you only have to hire millennials. Absolutely not. There can be creative CVs and different thinking people in every age range, right? Different does not mean millennial.
That's right. Thank you, Jan. Really appreciate it. All the best. Thank you for taking the time, all of you. And we'll be back with the next one. But thank you once again, Jan. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.